Welcome to Fish Offcuts, and the start perhaps of a new series of occasional update videos following the various other accounts that I play in the background while working on the Extreme 1 chunk. Given the scale of my current grind on that account, for 10,000 fishing bait from a single farmer spawn to reach 68 fishing, I found myself with plenty of time to explore the biggest update in Old School's history. So meet Marla, my soon-to-be unmaxed main account, on whom I'll be testing out everything that sailing has to offer before taking to the high seas on my UIM. Now, as returning viewers of the channel will know, I love a good spreadsheet, and so in the days and week leading up to the release, I hoarded up all the supplies I could, following Figment's tremendous guide for quantities of things like nails, bars, planks, and yet more nails, leaving me with this veritable stash. On to release day. And would you believe I nearly forgot the all-important Fashionscape? Anyway, Quest 1, the Pandemonium, one of the few bits of sailing content that I had played through on the beta, so no real surprises here, or so I thought. Head south, yeet, build a raft, go back to Port Sarim, grab the cargo, return to the Pandemonium, hand it in, and...
Collection log slot completed.
I'm sorry, what? This is just nuts. 131 experience on day 1 of the skill being out. The clan can't believe it either. We'd only just had someone else get it at level 12. It's not even the first pet that I've spooned on this account. Having Muffin at 23 kill count was crazy enough. Honestly, it was 50-50 whether I bothered to record any of this in the first place, it just being one drop in the figurative ocean of sailing update videos. Who would want to watch that, I thought, but I am so glad I caught this on video. It's a shame really that I can't face retiring the account at this stage, just to keep it preserved for quick chat reasons, as another clanmate did with his level 3 fishing heron, but with so many years put into it already, progress we must. So it's back to gym, and Quest 1 finished. Quite an eventful one. Now, as my boss KCs will attest, I'm by no means the most mechanically gifted of players, but this one's pretty embarrassing even by my standards. Guesses for how many attempts I'll have to make the Barracuda trials later on? Despite that one hiccup though, I must say I'm pretty impressed with how intuitive movement feels on the ship. And the sight of so many players out on the water together is just fantastic. The whole thing is hugely nostalgic, having played through many a skill release on RS2. And being on the clan's homeworld with so many familiar faces bobbing past has only made it that much better. It doesn't take me long for the next collection log slot either. There's shark paint. Now, we've all seen the FedEx and Deliveroo memes at this stage, and as we know, Jagex would soon revise its XP rates to accelerate especially the early game levels. At the time though, I was just vibing with this whole strangely familiar kind of comfy skilling loop that sailing's created. Having done a ton of mahogany homes on my UIM, I guess that's the closest experience I can liken it to. Taking a short break from the courier job, I bungled my way through some charting. If I'd looked through the captain's log or remembered the brief dialogue about a spyglass in the quest, I probably would have worked out what I was meant to do at this glowing spot the first time around. But never mind, the exploration itself was fun at least. Then I found this strange chap. Sailing's take on the Drunken Dwarf random, I guess, with a typically Jagex tongue-in-cheek reference for the name. And a crate. Now, you see the prompt here works really well, telling you that you need an item to interact with it, and even alluding to the start point for the quest in which you obtain the item. Why not have the same interact option on spyglass locations, with something like, maybe I could use something to get a closer look? In another egg-on-face moment though, I then forgot about reverse and got temporarily stuck. Perhaps it is just me that's the problem. I finally made it to Musa Point though, for the first time, and rediscovered the spyglass. On to Quest 2, some more classic Jagex humour with this one, in the form of Thurgo's special key. Fetching the pirate looty from Port Sarim and lugging it back to Pandemonium got me level 15, and in my excitement to buy a skiff, I forgot that things cost coins. Thurgo then wanted a steel bar as well as his special pie. Not going my way so far. But eventually the key was obtained, and I returned with some GP to buy that skiff. Kit it out with a salvage hook, drink the questionable sea juice, and quest complete. Now, not to start a grumbleathon, but I did find it a little strange for the one prominent shipwreck right beside the starting location for the skill not to count as a shipwreck. That one annoyance aside though, the next few levels went relatively smoothly. soon venturing out from Moosa Point towards Catherby, where I started making some upgrades to my ship, with an oak hull and an iron keel. Plus, I tried a spot of salvaging at something that the game did recognise as a shipwreck, and began quest number 3, Current Affairs. Now, as a short, novice difficulty quest that introduces a single mechanic within sea charting, it has absolutely no right being this well written. In all honesty, this is probably my new favourite quest in the entire game for dialogue. And even just the naming of items involved in it, like the mayoral election kit, is fantastic. There's no lead developer listed on the wiki, but it does feel very much like something from the mind of Mod Ed. Anyway, I'll avoid any further spoilers here because you really deserve to experience this for yourself. So on with the ship upgrades, and sails were next. Fossil Island, by the way, a top choice for a loom and spinning wheel convenience, both sitting in the same tent. Followed by more levels. Some lead, for an upgraded cargo hold, before hitting level 30. Time to chart a course towards the first Barracuda trial. Now, like I said, I didn't spend that long on the public beta, certainly not making it as far as level 30. And although I followed a preparation guide for supplies before release, I haven't really been keeping up to date with training routes, mechanics, and the like. So this is somewhat blind. Get your excuses in early, as they say. First observation would be that classic windowed mode is probably not the right play here, but I'm a stubborn fellow, and accordingly miss a good number of crates the first time around. I also naively assumed that the run was just going to get lobbed at my ship automatically, as the crates did, which you can't red X to force an interaction with, but then realised my error just in time and started frantically clicking the dude, before noticing I was meant to dive back closer to the island for the rest of the lap. Only 9 out of 14 crates. Some more work to do there. Attempt 2, and I'm up to 13 out of 14, but didn't yet realise you could turn in the run first and complete the trial instantly from wherever you collect the last missing crate. Nor was I thinking in terms of XP an hour, so simply restarted after tracking it down. Run 3 though is looking much better, despite the amount of damage I'm taking from storm clouds. And it's my first completion at 1 minute 53 already, so the target does seem comfortably within reach. Next round, I'm up a couple of seconds by the rum ship, but then get my first experience of those notorious crate detection ranges, plus a pretty shoddy attempt at a U-turn on my part. Not so good. But run 5 and completion number 3 goes much smoother, putting me comfortably under the target, with a time of 1:31. Happy with that. Before tackling the shark tier, I decide that another upgrade is in order, so it's off to the workbench for some teak hull pieces. Giving my skiff a new shiny exterior, and with a boatload of repair kits, it's back to the Barracuda trial. Now this one took a bit more figuring out and a few more aborted attempts as I found the route. The first complete run's nothing special at 3 minutes 17, but plenty of room for improvement. We don't talk about the next one, or the one after that, but by the 4th run I squeezed in just under 3 minutes for the first time. Number 5, I'm only 2 seconds off the mark. But the game's going to make me work for it, just 1 second off on run 6. And again on run 7, finally making it at the 8th, 2:47. More upgrades? After misreading how many canvas I need for a skiff, I pay far too much for 10 of the bloody things. And for some reason furnish my ship with a cannon that strangely seems to be positioned in the worst possible place for handling. Oh well. So it's Marlin time. Now, to save you the blow-by-blow account of this one, it's a bit of a slow start, with still over a minute to make up after a few trial runs. Part of the problem here, I think, is that the tendency would be to follow concentric circles around the course, starting with the innermost ring of crates, before moving to the centre, and then the outside. But this leaves some pretty awkward turns to navigate at the midway point, so realising that this is where I'm consistently losing time, I look up a few guides and start weaving between paths on the south side of the island. And this makes for a much quicker lap. Down to 4:41 by run 6 of the Marlin course, followed by a 4:38. And there we have it, 4:25. For those keeping score, that's 3 attempts for swordfish, 8 for shark, and another 8 for the Marlin time. Yes, it is crowded during the early days of the skill, and yes, the ranges on crates is a bit unpredictable, but I've quite enjoyed my brief stay at this damp version of agility. For now though, it's back to the more reclined salvaging method for me, where the levels start rolling in. There's 45. And another log slot in the bag with the Sailor's Amulet. Level 46. Some ship upgrades with the Mahogany Cargo Hold and Mithril Salvaging Hook. 47. 48. 49. And the big one, level 50. Sloop Time, which I decide to kit out with a mahogany hull, requiring a fairly long shift at the workbench. These large hull pieces really are quite resource intensive. But eventually I managed to build it, together with a keg, chest and 2 salvaging hooks. With the schematic for the salvaging station in hand, I head back and add that too, plus an inoculation station. But being a few supplies short of the matching mast and sails, I reckon it's time to use up a couple of those seeds I've gathered through all the salvaging. And yes, I know I'm on my main and could just buy them on the GE, but I've spent far too much on canvas already. Some more loom content, and the sails are complete. To interrupt this episode of Pimp My Sloop though, I decide it's time for quest number 4. Little Soup meet Big Soup. Design-wise, whereas the other quests were more focused on individual mechanics within sailing, this one felt a lot broader, as I guess a way of introducing the exploration side of the skill. Levelling, up until this point, could mostly be accomplished in relatively familiar waters, just off the coast of Asgarnia, Karamja, Kandarin, and so on. Here though, we're brought to a new island within a different region of the map entirely, where we first encounter the race of Tortugans, as well as materials like the Jatoba trees and mobs like the Griffins. Plus, there are a handful of loose ends in the story to explore with future updates. Anyway, with the quest complete, I thought I'd return to the first Barracuda trial and see how it felt as a training method instead of just gunning for the unlocks. Following a few runs with some rather underwhelming times, I thought I'd try some comfy mode trials by placing tile markers on all the crates, colour-coded for each loop of the course. An ordeal that resulted in an astonishing 14-minute 59-second lap. The markers certainly make it a bit more brainless, and the XP is pretty good, but being only 52 sailing at this point, and with so many ship upgrades ahead of me making for faster lap times, I just couldn't sum up that much enthusiasm for beating my current records. And it is pretty click intensive when I do really want to be playing my Extreme 1 chunk on the side. So ultimately it's not something I can see myself repeating that much beyond the target times for each course. And so, having sampled some of what early sailing had to offer, and with the Mithril Mahogany upgrades polished off on the sloop, this felt like the right time to park up the ship and embrace what will probably be my go-to training method while focusing on the 1 chunk account: salvaging. As the last few levels play out then, let's talk about the future for this mini-series of sorts. This video was a bit of an experiment, of course, for the channel, with most of my viewers being here for the 1 chunk content, I figure. But given how long I'll be at the farmers, I felt it was worth breaking things up a bit. There are only so many uploads of kill farmer, receive bait, catch pike that I can get away with. And I don't see that many other creators of progress videos with my style of scripted narration recorded in post. So, I don't know, maybe it scratches an itch for some folks out there. Plus, the removal of the fish chunk item in-game for the introduction of fish offcuts was too good an opportunity to pass up as a title for the series alone. Shout out to Bug for that idea. Depending on the level of interest, I could continue this series every now and then, alongside the 1 chunk account, either on the main, my UIM, or one of the other accounts I play from time to time, like my free-to-play UIM. There's the option to upload this kind of stuff on a second channel instead, so the main chunk one stays focused on that account, or ditch it altogether. I'm a bit torn, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you as ever for watching. Fish Chunk out.